Today is Monday, July 24. Welcome, everyone. And do we have any public comment? Seeing none, we will move forward to our agenda items. The first being our finance training, and today we're going to receive an overview of our nutritional services. So I'll hand it over. Good afternoon and welcome.
And I was going to say, and I will just do the introduction. This is Philip Green, our Director of Nutrition Services. So you've seen him a couple times, I think, at the board table, but for...
All right, good. Glad to be here.
Great.
Hope we can answer your questions throughout the presentation. So just wanted to start out with a brief kind of history of the National Lunch School Program. So after the World War II, looks like a number of soldiers were rejected for military duty due to poor health. And they basically attributed that back to the malnutrition as a child. So as part of the military budget at that time, the government created a program to ensure children were provided healthy, nutritious school lunches. Okay. I then want to give you a brief overview of when we talk about, I'll concentrate on lunch instead of breakfast, but when we talk about the National School Lunch Program, there are a tremendous amount of guidelines that we have to follow when it comes to the meals that we're serving the students. As you can see there, even from pre-K to K through 8, 9 through 12, there's a variation between what we have to offer. For instance, for breakfast, there really is no requirement for protein, but we have offered in the past, could be an egg sandwich, could be an egg, could be turkey sausage, turkey bacon, so some kind of protein. So it's not every day that they do not have a protein. But the biggest stickler to that is really the students taking a fruit and or a vegetable, okay, with the lunch. I have this here. This is actually our breakfast. With my handy dandy sign, I can turn that over, and that kind of gives you the breakdown of our lunch components of what we have to offer to the students. Okay.
Great.
And we do what we call an offer versus serve. So especially at the middle school and high school, you could have 8, 9 items on that line. They do not have to take all of those items. They can pick and choose which item, but I'll get into what is a reimbursable meal in a second, but we need them to take certain components of those meals. So if they don't want the chicken sandwich, just take a hamburger, they're still qualifying. Okay?
But they're required to get something from each of those 4.
For us to count it as a meal, as a reimbursable meal, we need them to do that. And one of the things we are definitely getting away from is the pre-plating of food. So the food is not pre-plated. Everyone is going through the line, served as they move through the line. A lot of this is handled by we have a registered dietitian on staff, and she must make sure that we are in compliance with all of the guidelines, the proteins, the calories, the fat intake. One of the things that is challenging right now is that the sodium level was just decreased July 1st by 10%. So that makes it even a little bit more difficult with some of the food items we can offer because that sodium level, and it's planned to go down again.
When you say who's
A USDA,
Okay.
U.S. Department of Agriculture. Okay. So normally that'll either it'll float down from the USDA to the Michigan Department of Education and then down to us. Any questions so far? Okay. Grand Rapids Public Schools is involved with a program called Community Eligibility Provision. That basically means that every child, scholar in the district that gets in line to get a meal will eat for free. And that includes breakfast as well as lunch. All our meals are claimed as free. I checked with my analyst today. We are claiming at 100%. Now, how that number is determined is the information collected by the district regarding students that are either on government assistance, homeless, Medicaid, which Medicaid just came in about 3 years ago. It hasn't always been there, and runaway. They take a look at the numbers from those categories as a percentage of the student body, and then that bottom point, then we take that. So if it's 60%, we multiply that by a factor of 1.6. So that gives us the claim rate. And anyone who would want to participate in CEP must have at least a 40% a rate. And we're much higher than that. So we're like 60%. So we're claiming all our meals is free. These are the rates. When we claim a meal, these are the rates that we're receiving. Free, $4.43, reduced, $4.03, which we do have some reduced meals, but we don't charge any students for that. We kind of eat that cost for anything that will be reduced. Breakfast is $2.67, reduced $2.26. The new rates just came out, I think, yesterday or day before yesterday, probably Friday, I believe. So I don't have those quite written down in the presentation here. Our snack, we reimburse at $1.08 per snack, and that's mainly just the Loop program after school. Okay. And I said rates pending for 23-24, they've come out since I did the presentation.
Are they matching the rates?
What's that?
You said they just came out?
Yes. Yeah, I believe Friday. They're a little bit higher, but not significantly. We did, over the course of the pandemic and all those other things that were going on, USDA did increase the rates quite a bit, just to cover some of the costs of increasing costs. We submit a claim, our funding sources, Michigan Department of Education, we submit a meal claim every month. So we tabulate all the meals for each month, we input that into their system, and that's how we generate the claim coming back to Grand Rapids Public Schools. We've also received supply chain assistance funds. That actually could go under grants, the way they worded it. But we've received 3 installments, payments on those. I know one was over $300,000, the other 2 were close to $200,000.
Where are they coming from?
USDA funding,
Okay.
which funnels down to the Michigan Department of Education. And basically, it was you couldn't just use it for anything, though. I think it was for a lot of unprocessed foods. One of the biggest one we could utilize now was milk. So that was a good plus for that. Okay. Right now, we're involved with 3 grants, the 10 cents a meal. And just to give you an update on that, the spreadsheet's all ready to go. We're just trying to figure out a way for me to get into the Nexus system to input the data. Team Nutrition Education and Equity, we just received, I believe, another notice. We're going to add 2 schools to that. Right now, it's Ford, Southwest Elementary. Then next year, we will add Frost Middle High School and Southwest Middle High School. Okay. And basically what that program is, it's encouraging us to utilize local fruits and vegetables, but also getting the farmer involved. So farmer could come in and do a presentation, or introduce zucchini to them, that they grow. We have had one event so far, May 28th, with Southwest Elementary, and I forget the park that's behind the school, but they had a family outing there, and we utilized a local farmer called Super Bloom, who grows their products hydroponically. So she was giving out free samples, so that tied in, and that's what they want us to do, to tie in those type of educational programs to maybe introduce the students to some different foods.
DNR is a part of that as well, the Department of Natural Resources for Michigan?
I haven't dealt with them. I've just been dealing with the MDE representatives. Well, some of them are not MDE. Some of them are actually consultants. But they have the name of local farmers. We've been on numerous Zoom calls to discuss the local farmers as well as what products they actually produce. The local foods for schools, again, fruits and vegetables. The submissions through May have been made, and all of those are in MDE, Jim's Mars system. I think that's what they call it. They keep changing names on it. But I have submitted all of the invoices for the local school Food for Schools program. So. Next is just a breakdown of the monthly meal reimbursement, basis revenue that we receive on a monthly basis. And you can see the dips there. August, school is just starting. December, we have a holiday break. Even April, when you miss a week of school because of spring break. So you'll see the fluctuations in the, in the revenue. Normally on high months, as you can see, 1.2, $1.3 million coming in per month. In June, which I didn't get the number until after the presentation, was about $241,000. But that's because we had like 5 days worth of school. Our expense categories, as you can see, major food costs there, over 50% of the cost for our department. You tack in salaries and benefits, you're over 80% of the budget in those categories. Now, there could be some times where you would see more with capital outlay, equipment and those type of things. One of the things we did some time ago was when we had a fund balance, we purchased a lot of equipment. We still have some equipment back in the warehouse right now, a couple of coolers that we purchased years ago that when one breaks, we take one out of there, we move it to the school.
I'm going to just throw in there a note. The purchase services also include, as you know, that we do this food service for the non-GRPS sites. So that could be in their salary and benefits as well for those staff. And then the payment to other districts. For example, we do the food service for East Grand Rapids, and they maintain their own staff. And so the state, when we report in, doesn't want us to report it as salary and benefits. It's a payment to the other districts. So the state on their level takes their information, our information, those payments get excluded, so it's not double counted. But so if you look at salary and benefits, it's actually a larger number. But just wanted to add the little clarification in there.
Are you in the system?
In board docs, yeah. Yeah, it's very strange.
I don't know.
Yours
If I
looks
show,
different, too.
mine is
Oh, yours is
completely, it
Yeah.
says all expenses in all blue. Like
Oh, really?
There is not
Okay.
there is no.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm like, is this new? Because I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
It must be a software thing or
Actually,
something.
so,
You're both using
I've
what?
asked Ms. Cribbs this question
Yeah.
before, and I think you're a little more suited to answer this, just about the partnership that we have with other schools and
Yes.
so my understanding is that we used to provide our staff to other districts to also provide them services as well. And that's no longer a stipulation of providing them nutrition services. Is that something that you're considering, I guess, now that it's changed, now that they don't have to hire through GRPS, is that something that is possible in the near future? I guess what is the benefit to doing this aside from just being a good neighbor, right, to a neighboring district?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, when you look at the reimbursement rate, I'll use East Grand Rapids, and their X amount of meals, and the $4 plus per meal that is generated. They don't keep all of that. I take a portion of that. I have to take a portion of that for food costs, transportation, different expenses that we incur by providing services to them. So as far as the full reimbursement rate, none of the schools that are non-GRPS that we service, none of them receive the whole reimbursement rate. In the contract that I have with each one of those individuals, I take a percentage of that reimbursement to make sure we recoup our expenses for providing the service. Now, to answer your question, there are a few schools out there that have a GRPS employee that is working there, providing the meals, cooking, so forth and so on. But the expense for that cook comes out of their budget. So whatever they're generating reimbursement-wise, they have to pay the salary, benefits, everything else that's tied to that GRPS employee. So we don't take any loss on providing someone.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's also no like net gain or what you charge them. Do we make a profit off of what we charge them for their reimbursement or what we charge against the reimbursement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But it all stays in food service.
Right.
It cannot
Right,
go
right,
anywhere else.
right.
So it's all got to be related to food service.
For instance, if we have a computer system that counts our meals, those type of things, when that annual bill comes, it is divided up to some of these schools because that system is needed for us to run the business through them also.
Right.
So we don't take full costs for those programs.
Okay.
Just a brief example, some of the allowable expenses, of course, salary and benefits, food, supplies, equipment and repairs, purchase services, vehicle maintenance, all of those costs are handled under the food service budget. Any questions on that?
Can you just remind me what bargaining unit the food service employees are under?
Most of them are in the GRESPA, and I believe that's Grand Rapids Educational Support Staff Unit.
And I think we have 2 on the gray op.
That's what I was gonna say, we've got, like, the office staff, we've got a couple clerical staff that are gray up. We've got some, like Philip, that are administrative exempt staff. But the actual cooks and all of that are in the GRESPA group.
Now, for equipment purchases, years ago, anything over $5,000 had to be approved by Michigan Department of Education. They changed that, so they provided a pre-approved equipment list. So if I want a cooler or oven, I don't need approval anymore, if it's on that list, okay, which eliminates a lot of paperwork. I have to submit it, they have to approve it, all that stuff. So if it's on that list, we do not need Michigan Department of Education approval. Our fund balance guidelines, we are authorized to carry up to 3 months of expenses on the books. And normally, we don't see that or whatever till the year end, okay? Because it's a floating, expenses are coming in, revenue's coming in, everything is changing like on a daily basis. Any additional amount above that 3 months level is considered excess fund balance. MDE, USDA, they want us to spend that money. So again, it could be equipment, it could be improvements, it could be a lot of different things that are allowable to get that excess fund balance down, okay? For an excess fund balance, I would submit a spending submission to MDE for approval. And it would break down, I want 10 ovens, 10 this, whatever, till I get to that amount, and then they would approve it. It would come back to us, and then we would go about whether we need to put it out for bid or what, depending on the amount that of that request is. It also includes a spending timeline. So they may give me 7 months to spend it. If I can't spend it within that 7 months, I can ask for an extension, which we've done in the past. Okay. Again, the next point, approval needed on the purchases, prior to going out and getting them. Okay. The school meals report, which is what we get at the end of every year, reflects the excess fund balance, if there is any. So we get that report at the end of each year that shows us if there's an excess fund balance in the account.
Are there different layers of improvement that has to go, or is this improvement through the MDE? When you say approval needed prior to purchases?
That would be MDE.
Okay.
It used to be a handwritten form. Now we can do it electronically, where we submit it right through their system with the breakdown of what I want to spend the money on, and then they approve it from there.
How long, out of curiosity, does it take for you to submit your requests, approval, and then receiving the equipment of what you've asked for, like from MDE?
Approval is really not that long. You might be looking at 2 or 3 weeks to get the approval back. And then the actual purchases would depend on whether we need to get bids, getting quotes. Well, I'll change that. Normally I receive quotes before I put that spending plan together. So that spending plan is pretty accurate to what the cost would be. Now,
So if something emergently breaks down, I'm just gonna use pick any school you want, but let's say a cooler decides to break down and you have to get something. I mean, that I'm assuming, and this could be just me hypothetically speaking, but I'm assuming you would need that equipment, hence why it's there. So if there was a cooler that was no longer keeping any of the fresh vegetables or salads fresh, as a result, like how long would it take for that to be replaced, where that's no longer a pending or sore for that particular school?
Well, that particular case, I would not need approval.
Okay.
I would go right to the source and say, hey, give me the quote.
You can go
I
perfect.
can go right
Okay.
there, and then I can find out what the lead time is, whether I need to switch one from one school to the other to cover us until we can get it in.
Got it.
That type of thing.
Okay, good to long. So you don't got
Yeah.
to go no further than me. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Well, I was trying to figure out if there was a bottleneck somewhere that was
No,
like,
no, no.
causing
If
with
it's
this
something,
approved, so
and if it's an
I'm there.
emergency, we're gonna take care of it.
Okay,
You know, try to
Good
get
to
it
know.
done right away.
I'm glad our scholars will not have to suffer.
No, no, no. We will, we will either find another cooler somewhere until we get the new one in, but we'll go right away and try to, replace that.
Okay, thank you.
Just to give you an example, a few years back, we did have some excess fund balance. Some of that funding was utilized to redo the kitchen at Ottawa Hills, C.A. Frost Middle High School, Ridgemore Montessori, Southwest Middle High School, and Museum High School.
So these were buildings that were undergoing the renovations, or in the case of Southwest, when we were doing the construction. So as part of the total package for the cost of those buildings, food service funded the cafeteria portion of those buildings.
So just to give you a quick example, for instance, Ottawa Hill was basically $224,000. That was prior to the tables as well as we were approached and they wanted to do something a little bit different, so we purchased the high seats with the high tables as well as, I think, 4 or 6 booths that are now in the cafeteria area, so. All right.
What are the summer meals that we provide? Where does that come out of? Is that this budget? Yeah, okay.
I have a question
Yeah.
for you. And while I ask this question, I definitely, if this is something that needs to be, do not feel bad about saying,
Okay.
like, we can table this
Sure.
later.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
curious about the question. So I remember prior to, and I want to say this was back in probably maybe February,
Okay.
when you came and gave that presentation
Yes.
in regards to what was happening with food there. And then with anticipating what our scholars have been voicing over this past end of this last school year, going into the summer regarding meals, was anything regarding some of the stuff that you've already presented on being to address that going into the next school year that potentially is something that is covered, or I'm trying to make sure oftentimes the connecting of the dots is not always very clear.
Okay.
And so connecting the dots between what you just presented and what potentially is to come into this next school year regarding food,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, so what has changed really,
Yeah.
if anything? Yeah.
Okay, a couple things. One is that we have done a number of testings this summer, which I know is a limited amount of schools and students, but for instance, we tested 3 different pizzas at Gerald R. Ford. That was on May 28th. I believe the week before last, we tested a Supreme Pizza at Southwest Middle High School, and we also tested what we call an 8-cut chicken, which is it's providing more than a drumstick and a breast. Could be a thigh. Could be, there's different parts of the chicken that are being offered now. Went very well over at Museum High School. We are also we're testing a chicken salad with about 8 different spices in it. That one was actually done in our commissary kitchen over at the Nutrition Center. So there are a lot more items that we're planning to test and bring in for the fall. We are also looking at trying to eliminate the use of the tinfoil pans. For instance, on the salad bar, we have ordered new plastic, they're very nice looking, they're black containers that sit on the salad bar, so we're kind of eliminating the aluminum pans. Also, we'll be using some clear plastic type storage units, or storage for the food, serving units that'll go on the line. So we are trying as much as we can to eliminate the aluminum pans, kind of make the line look much better. Every middle school and high school now will have, at the beginning of the school year, will have utensil dispensers. So they will not be using what we call the sporks, which are in the plastic wrap with the, with the napkin. So every middle school and high school will be shifting over to that.
Okay. Any in particular around any? I know with you said there's food testing, but any food permanent changes that's happening that came up from last year that is going into this year? I'm getting into that storytelling mode for 'cause
Okay.
some of the stuff that you just mentioned was amazing, and I
Yep.
think that would be good for the community at large to hear that you've been hearing and making some adjustments towards some of those concerns. I'm just I'm also like thinking, look, what's actually not tested, but actually being implemented into the food for the fall.
Well, there are a number of different items. I mean, we have brokers coming in all the time. They will serve, for instance, if we have a managers meeting at the nutrition center, sometimes a broker will come in and they'll present their new items. You know, we kind of go with the managers at that time, not only the taste, but the texture, making the food, how difficult it may be. So we've done that. There's a lot of new items coming that we are being shown on a daily basis.
Okay, that's good to know. So I don't know if that's something we bring back or to have that, because I think, hearing this past year, as far as so many people that were coming before us, talking about some of their raised concerns around the food, and to hear that, one, not only did the district hear them, but also made adjustments to address those concerns, should be talked about, because that's really reimagining GRPS with us in the aspect of that. So I'm giving you a boost of encouragement to say thank you for hearing them, but also as we do that, that's something that I think
You'll see a lot of changes coming. I mean, I have an idea for one of the high schools I'm thinking about that I saw at another district, the way the lines were served, running a double line with two different main entree, sub and salad bar on the other side. So we're looking at how we can get that stuff formulated so it'll work starting in the fall.
So my only two questions or comments for you if you don't mind, is one, I'm assuming that your plastic containers are sustainable, and so I think about our sustainable footprint as a district. So I'm assuming they're reusable and clean.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Perfect.
They're a heavy duty plastic, so.
Okay. And then two, you talked about a partnership that you have with some of the local farms. I'm curious or have a question, if not, then a potential partnership for you that we can also further discuss as far as the zero waste. So what happens with the food that doesn't get used? Because we do have a lot of pig farms here. And if you know anything about a pig, they don't discriminate on what they eat on. And so I'm thinking about like that wasted food that cannot be saved to go towards or reused for any type of population due to the bacteria that grows. Do we have a partnership with those local farms that are pig
No.
farms to feed that? So
No.
we actually have like a zero waste program.
No, we do
Okay.
not have that. I'd be interested in finding out about it.
Okay.
One of the things that we are looking at also is to make I'll call it second chance table more visible at the schools. So certain items that if a scholar doesn't want it, goes on the table, it's very, the guidelines are very strict on what can and cannot go on the
Yeah.
table.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, but it does give a scholar an opportunity. Okay, I
more.
want, it's up there. Oh, I want another one? Go get it. So that in itself would eliminate, some of the waste.
I like that.
Yeah.
One
Thank
thing
you.
I've always wondered about is with trying to add more choice for students, do you find that that tends to be a challenge given that we're all free and there's so many requirements on what they have to meet?
I find it more challenging at an elementary school
Okay.
than a middle school or a high school. For instance, if you went to C.A. Frost Middle High School, she could have hamburgers, pizza. She could have 3 different entrees up there. In addition to the fruit, the vegetables, and everything else. But for those middle schools and high schoolers, with the serving lines, the way they're set up, it makes it much more conducive to offer more items than, the setup of some of the elementary schools.
Yeah, and I've worked in the cafeteria with my students and witnessed with kindergarten and first graders when they have to take
Oh, yeah.
one of each category and they don't want it. And I mean, it is very difficult
Yeah, I've
to
heard
monitor all of that, but they need to in order for us to get reimbursed by the state, correct? So it does add an element where I've just always wondered, is it a little bit more complicated in a district where it's all free for everyone than it would be where students are being charged based on what they choose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I thought it would be more complicated. Good to
Well,
know
even in
it's
some
not.
of some of the areas that the students may be paying, there still may be one or two, the percentage is much lower than what we have here, that are free and reduced. And to even count those meals, they must meet the requirement, so. Well, it's difficult. They're trying to carry the tray,
Right.
trying to get it to the seat without spilling it.
That's a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I had one more question.
Yeah.
Just thinking about the new legislation that passed, the Healthy Meals for All program.
Yes.
Does that change any of the reimbursement rates, or does that give GRPS more funding? Does it stay the same for us since we're already considered free district wide? Because I mean, looking at the 40 cent, discrepancy between free and reduced, but now it's all free. Do we get reimbursed at 443 then for every meal, or does it not change?
It's okay.
It probably will not change,
It won't change.
but for a school district that we are the school food authority for, you will see their numbers shoot up. Now, what we can do is I'll probably be looking at adjusting our percentage that we receive from those meals. Because when the meals go up, supplies go up, meals go up, meal counts go up. So there's a lot of different expenses that will come along with that. It will not affect what we do in Grand Rapids Public Schools.
Okay.
And some of the details are still coming out, but that's
Right.
my general impression of what I've seen as well, is the GRPS portion of nutrition services won't change significantly, but some of our partner schools, we may
Okay.
have some changes there.
And-
So in total, you'll see something probably on food service, but.
Okay. I'm just thinking because, I mean, I'm always trying to see where do we have extra, revenue coming in, so, to work with. So, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you spending the time to go over this. It's been nice. I've actually been, I don't know if I was energy channeling you, but definitely was wondering about some updates from this. So this came at a very timely time. So thank you.
Yeah.
We'd love to see you at our general board meetings too. I'd like to see everyone more at the general board meetings.
Yeah, good. All right, well, this has been really helpful. Thank you very much for
All
making the
minds clear?
time. Yes?
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Yep, you bet. Okay, wonderful. Well, we'll move on then to the next part of our agenda, which is our action items, and we'll start with our purchasing agenda. Ms. Cribbs?
So I am going to start going down through the purchasing agenda. Our first item there is our tuition for the My School at Kent. This is a program that the KISD offers. Typically, and I think it's ever since this program has existed, they bill us at the end of the year because it's based on students, our GRPS students enrolled in their program by the number of days that they are participating in that program. So typically at semester, they'll give me an idea of where they think this is headed, but it does change even from that January, February estimate till year end. So it's been running about this 200,000-ish. So again, you'll probably see it next July, but it should be in that ballpark of the dollar amount.
So that's, is that the KCTC program, or is it a
It's
different
separate.
program? It's separate?
It's another program that they offer out at the ISD. There's one for My School at Kent, and there is a Kent Innovation High. But the Kent Innovation High, they've decided to discontinue but phase it out. So there's not as many students participating in that, and they aren't accepting new students into the program. So they're letting the students that were enrolled in that program finish, but not accepting new students. I think the interest had dwindled, so they're like, oh, we're going to focus on KCTC and this My School at Kent program.
Okay. I'll have to do some research on what that one is. I'm not too familiar with it, so.
Okay,
I briefly looked it up as well. I wasn't familiar. I believe it's online school, is it not? Yeah.
Is it?
I think so.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's or at least a heavier
Yeah.
component of online at school. Online
For high
school.
schoolers?
Correct. I think so.
I would. My first impression is middle and high school, but I'm
Okay.
Okay.
not quite sure.
Okay.
The next item down is our lease of classroom space for the zoo school at the John Ball Zoo. Again, it's about this amount every year. Tends to be a cost of living adjustment in it every year, so it will creep up a little bit, typically by a couple $100 type. It's not a huge increase, but just recognizing those increases do occur. The next, we've got a software licensing for our facilities and maintenance incident tracking. In the district, we call it Maximo. So if something breaks in your building, the secretary can go into Maximo and say, the lock on room 202 is not working. And that gets channeled to the operations department, and then they can get somebody out there to fix that. So that's the non-technical version of what the Maximo software is. It's kind of one of those, an easier way for them to track repairs that need to happen.
Quick question for you. With the one you just did on the John Bazoo Zoological Gardens, should we be expecting one from Museum School as well? For lease of?
Museum school
Public
is
museum.
slightly different in that we have a 99-year lease with them.
Okay.
And it's done a little bit differently on
Okay.
theirs. And in that lease and MOU, memorandum of understanding, they do bill us for some services. And I have not yet seen that bill for 23, fiscal 22, 23 yet. So
Okay.
potentially it could be coming back on the museum middle school
Got
piece
it.
of it.
Okay.
The museum high school is our building, so we don't have a lease for that.
Got it. Thank you.
Which reminds me is I need to contact them to ask where that invoice is.
Thanks for that.
Thank you for the reminder.
You're welcome.
The next item down under the support services is it's similar to what we've seen for the other food service for the non-GRPS sites. As we're closing out, we've got additional invoice in there from San Juan Diego for food service staff.
We're not familiar with San Juan Diego Academy. That's what we're talking about, is
Okay,
where it's
that's what I was
located.
gonna
Yeah.
say. I think it's a smaller private school. I believe it's on the southwest side of town.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. And then under the special funds that under instructional supplies, the purchase of cafeteria tables, this is one that we did write into our SR3 application. I'm wanting to update some of our furniture and using one-time funds for a one-time purpose. It was approved, so we're starting to move forward, and Philip and his group identified the sites that we should start with to replace cafeteria tables.
What do we do with the replacement of the ones? Do we donate them to another district? What do we?
It probably depends on what the condition is about what we can do with them. Some of them I know they've been breaking, and I'm not sure if another district would find them usable type thing too. So disposal will become another thing that we'll look at what is the right thing to do, but we don't want to give something out that's totally broken either, so.
Does it usually cost the district, like previous years, do we get charged for any disposal services? Does that come at a cost to us? If
I'm
we
not-
can't donate it and we
That's,
have to
I'm
give
not
it-
sure on how we do all those disposals. If there's a way to salvage it, we're probably looking to find that to get salvage out of it as well. The next one, this is number 2, is a little bit of an unusual item. This is one that you approved back in March, and we're looking at a bid under a REMC consortium pricing. As we got into it a little bit further, and we told you we were going to use Presidio Dell pricing off from that, as we got into it, the item that they were providing doesn't meet our needs as well as this one from C-High Computer Products. So when we went to actually place the product or place the order, we're like, well, that's not quite what we want. But this other one, still under the REMC bid, is a better fit for what our needs are. So all we're doing is changing the vendor but wanted to be upfront and transparent that we're changing from Presidio Dell to Seahide Computer Products.
There's not a difference in the cost associated with the,
Not a difference in the cost or the numbers that we're buying, it's just, like
I was trying to make sure.
Model A versus Model B, and Model B from Seahide was a better fit for what we need.
Okay.
And the last one is the Discovery Ed Science. It's a 1-year extension on the software that we have been using, the Discovery Ed software, for the last several years, 5 or 6 years. Our agreement ended at June 30th, I believe. It ended at the end of the 2023 year. So at the same time, I know this did go through academic achievement in May. And we also, at the same meeting, introduced our new science supervisor. So one of the tasks that she will be working on this year is looking at our science curriculum. So we want a 1-year extension of the existing curriculum, science curriculum, so we can have our new science supervisor take the lead of what are new options for science.
So this was approved, or I don't even know if it's approved, so it's just presented. So did the Academic Achievement Committee provide?
I was going to say, I do have Jonathan here. If I can ask him to come down and he can tell you a little bit more about what went through academic achievement.
Thank you. I'm just curious about that particular question, and then how is this different from the other two digital tech books that you presented prior to as well? I don't know if that just covered very particular topics, but this isn't the first.
Yeah, this is very specific to science. So we talked about a couple other digital tools, I think, but this is specific to the science curriculum. And as Rhonda said, we've worked with Discovery Education now for 6 years. We had a 6-year agreement with them. Unfortunately, our science supervisor, it took us a little bit to get someone hired. I mean, I believe the day that we presented this proposal in May was the day that we actually, Jessica Vander Ark started as our new science supervisor. So as Rhonda mentioned, the idea behind this is that we didn't really want to just have a cold stop because we had not followed process up to that point. So we want to make sure that we follow process and allow our advisory committees to convene and look at those resources with support of our the science coordinator over at Kent Intermediate School District. So we're working very closely with them to look at both vetting Discovery Education resources and other highly rated resources related to whatever is aligned to Next Generation Science Standards is what the state of Michigan adopted. This allows us a buffer, really, is what this is, so that we don't have a lapse in services for our staff and students for this academic year, to allow us to go through that process of review and advisement on what do we want to pilot, what do we want to push forward at some point for future adoption, if that be the case. That's the rationale behind this.
So, Chuck, is this I'm trying to figure out how do I request this. So you said this was a 5-year or 6-year prior to that. So there's previous 6 or 5 years worth of data collected already previously from the usage already, correct?
There are, and to be honest with you, there are, it's kind of hit or miss. We've had more implementation at the elementaries and a little bit more pushback at secondaries, and we've had ongoing conversations with Discovery Ed about some of those challenges, but that's one of the reasons why it's so critical that we have our advisory committee go through and follow that process to say, is this a good fit for us moving forward into the future or not? When we presented this in May at the Academic Achievement Committee, some similar questions were asked as well. One of the questions that did come up is 1 year enough? I mean, do we need longer? I'm pretty confident that we can engage our staff and go through an advisory process. This is not to say that I am advocating in any way for that we would adopt Discovery Ed beyond 1 year. We need to follow that process and go through and make sure that this is the right fit, because it hasn't been all perfect. There have been some pushback and questions around the alignment, just for full transparency related to what we're currently doing. But this was a way so that we didn't just have a cold turkey stop without a resource in place, because all of our current syllabi K through 12 and assessments are aligned to this resource. So we wanted to make sure that we could at least hit the ground running for fall of 2023 with a functional tool, and then engage in that with that review and adoption committee, taking it to instructional council, the whole process.
So here's my question / concern. Is we have the ability to have 6 years of prior knowledge, right? And it wasn't as if we weren't aware that this contract was coming to an end to prep for it. Is this working? I'm more concerned about extending a year to do when we have 5 additional years of data. And what is that assessment looking like, or what are the benchmarks or measures put in place that we are going to measure this again or against? And is there a way to have perhaps a presentation on those findings from the last? Because if it's not working, there's already listed concerns. Then it's like my brain is like, well, then why would we continue to feed a pipeline towards something that's already being identified as problematic?
Well, sorry, excuse me. I just want to clarify. It's only happening this way because were you our former science curriculum?
Yeah.
And then so we had to hire someone else. So this is just to kind of
And
keep the consistency for the.
Well, another component of this too is keeping in mind that, and this was part of the presentation in May also, was around the adoption of resources and implementation, right? So we talked about our English language arts adoption, right? And when you look at elementary adoption is very different than a secondary adoption. And for our secondary staff that specialize, right, for lack of a better word, their lens is looking at, if I'm a science teacher or if I'm a math teacher, I'm simply looking at what are the tools and resources and pedagogy that I need to learn and adopt in order to implement that. Much of the feedback that we've gotten from our elementary staff, and we've had this challenge in the past, is adopting too many things too quickly and changing. And so then when you're looking at teachers in our elementaries or our K-8 buildings that are self-contained and function under our elementary model, that adoption cycle needs to be spaced out. To allow for new learning and for adoption. Because if we go from one brand new tool 1 year and then you turn around and add on another brand new tool another year, eventually it ends up being too much of a lift. And there isn't as much follow through from year to year. So it isn't just about the fact that our license was up in June. It is also looking at spacing out our timelines so that we actually follow an advisement process from our committees and then look at what makes sense from an adoption perspective so that our classroom practitioners can actually learn and grow along with the tools and implement them, and not just keep piling on. And we've made that mistake in the past, and that's one of the rationale for doing it this way, so that we're not continuing to just pile on to those classroom teachers as well. So it does give us some time.
There wasn't an advisement process prior?
There were advisement processes, but the timelines for adoption, like I think the last time we did a full adoption, we did math and ELA, and those two came very closely together.
They were very close together, and we had Discovery Ed very close after that. In addition, then we hit COVID, and all of the resources, again, that we put into place during COVID. So I think COVID kind of slowed down the process of what this looks like. And now it's being intentional with the curriculum department of, okay, lessons learned. You can only ask somebody to learn so much, especially those elementary teachers that hit all 4 cores plus everything else they're trying to teach. That it's like, okay, we need to slow down and be intentional. If I'm putting words in
Yes.
your mouth.
No,
But
that's
where
exactly right.
It's coming from let's slow down, let's look at, and things have changed in the last 6 years,
That's
I'm
right.
sure. Life has changed. So I'm sure there's new curriculum options out there as well, and just wanting to be intentional about what this science adoption looks like.
That makes a lot more sense to me, because what I was hearing from Jordan was we could have started this process last year
Correct.
if we knew it was coming up, but this
Yeah.
makes sense from a teacher standpoint. Like,
Correct.
it's too much all at once.
And those are the key things that I think that often we have to say, or be pulled out because there will be a perception that this is then why I continue with this program. What this is the reason why. So I think oftentimes it's the community at large and our scholars or teachers that are put in play here that this coming before us without having those questions where that gets to get pulled out paints a different picture than that by itself. And I think that couldn't stand alone as an explanation because it was not making sense as to why would we do this? It doesn't make sense why we would continue in this effort. If we already knew this was coming, we should have been prepared prior to make sure hey, let's not spend another 100,000 plus.
This conversation does strike in me the wonder of how could we as a board drive these committee meetings, because I'm sure our board members that are on academic committee were asking very similar questions, and you gave an extensive presentation, I'm sure. So how can we tie these committee meetings together in a better way so that we have a little bit of understanding?
Or the background that before it comes before us, which is.
And I think that's our job.
I agree. A change now is that, if curriculum is moving through academic achievement, it's noted on the purchasing agenda. So we know that our colleagues have vetted and had the presentation right. So in essence, it comes to us as finance. It's truly not our job now as the committee to vet the tool. It is our job to approve it, to move it forward, because academic achievement has done that. So I know that is not always the easiest thing, right? Especially when we have questions like this. But I think the work is that academic achievement would vote to move it to finance because they vetted and approved the recommendation from the district.
And approved. Maybe that's where it says presented and approved, so that way there isn't a.
I don't know if we have ever approved anything
You don't really have action items.
academic.
I think you could, with consensus, move it forward to finance. Maybe it's not a vote of
Yeah,
approval.
like a move forward, like we've asked all the questions that,
Yeah, but that's for us to figure out.
Yeah.
Outside of this work. So I'll work with Mr. Ross, the chair.
I believe so.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
And
Yeah, thank you,
just
Mr. Harper.
To give you a heads up, Jonathan and I will be working closely over the next year with ESSER funding, ESSER 3 funding falling off. And we have a lot of curriculum is to get to, and I know Dr. Roby has asked us to do it as well, is what's our long-term plan for all of these things? And get it better mapped out so we don't have something fall through the cracks or what that looks like. On the funding side, I want to make sure we're sustainable and what that looks like too. So
Absolutely.
Jonathan and his curriculum staff and the finance office will be working very closely together over the next year.
Great. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Remembering, did you send it to the, I thought, sorry, 1 second. Did you send it to the district? You were going to follow up with an email. I don't know. To follow up again.
It triggered from the.
Yeah, sure. Okay, any other questions about the purchasing agenda? And if not, I will request a motion to move it forward to the full board meeting.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, that motion carries. We'll move forward to our donations.
All right, we have several donations tonight. The first one we have is from Custer Inc. They've offered to donate 240 tables and chairs to be used throughout the district. They can be used in various settings, conference rooms, classrooms, event spaces. I haven't seen the tables, I'm not sure what they look like, but will be used throughout the district. So the business office is recommending approval.
That's a nice
Yeah,
donation.
really
Thank
great.
you.
Any questions or discussion? If not, may I have a motion to move this forward, please?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And our next donation is for a Challenge Scholars Dream Fund. And I think this is the first one that we've had come through. I know it is since, all except Ms. Shotke have been on this finance committee. So the Challenge Scholars program is for those West Side schools. And a few years ago, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, COVID kind of blurs my timeline on it. But the Grand Rapids Community Foundation recognizes that sometimes there are, I want to say, wish list type items that somebody may want to do an application. So this is the first one that's come through in this year. What we decided was the ones under $2,500, a teacher or a student or community member could write for a mini grant that may be under $2,500. Those still get vetted through the principal and their executive director about, is this something that we really want? And does it align with our goals? And if that's the case, we don't bring those forward through the board. If there is a grant that's between the 2,500 and 10,000, it still gets vetted through the business, and it goes through the business office as well. But we haven't brought those forward. The ones over 10,000 come directly to the board. That, and I would clarify on that 2,500 to 10,000. Back when the Dream Fund was started, there was board approval. I want to believe the Dream Fund was $400,000. So we did say, and at that point, we were getting multiple ones coming through frequently. Like I said, this is the first one in probably at least over a year that I've seen come through on Dream Fund. So just wanted to give you a little bit background on Challenge Scholars and the Dream Fund. This one, we've had staff at Union High recognize that barrier, and they wanted to start a Scholars Clothing Closet. So this is what the funds will be used for, is to replenish their closet inventory for sweatpants, suits, socks, underwear, toiletries, household products, and those types of items.
So was this, can you remind me, was this something that the admins at Union requested and sent to the
Yes.
Community Foundation?
Yeah.
So any of the other high schools could have access to this?
It's
being-
got to be Challenge Scholars, so it's got to be our schools that are involved in
Yeah.
Challenge Scholars. So it would be Union, Westwood, Ottawa's not on the northeast side.
Oh, no.
Northwest side.
Oh, northwest side, yeah. I was thinking there, but I just misspoke, sorry. Yes, it's the northwest side, so
thank
Harrison,
you.
Stocking.
Question for you. So I know that it's Union that requested it. Do they write the grant themselves? Does your office write the grant?
No, it's a smaller and easier grant application through the Grand Rapids Community Foundation. So
Okay.
they're able to access, I believe it's a portal, and
And then just
request the
put that
funds there, and typically we find out about it after the fact, which
Okay.
is the way we found out about this one.
Can they
is-
apply anytime, or is there like a couple times a
window.
year?
I'm not sure on that. Again, it's been a while since we've had any come through, so the way they used to come through, it was throughout the year, so I think
It's open at any
it
time.
was an open.
I have one more question, kind of a side note. The Community Foundation, is there anything that our district offers for employees to have money directly taken out of their paycheck to go to the foundation?
Not to the
donating.
community foundation. We do have employee withholding for our GRPS foundation.
Okay, yeah,
Nice.
that makes sense.
Okay, may I please have a motion to move forward this donation?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next donation.
I was gonna say, oops, if I push the right button, it will advance. This is another one, we've been notified, the Heart of West Michigan United Way is doing the Stuff the Bus campaign again. Working with our KSSN coordinators, they've identified these buildings. Because the event doesn't actually happen until early August, it's an estimate of what they think they're going to be able to collect based on what they've done in the past. So bringing this forward of an estimate of what the actual donation will be for these schools.
Can I go for something like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reason, I'll just say publicly, the reason that you're asking is that Mr. Rodriguez works for KSSN,
Okay.
but really only a conflict needs to be,
Like personal gain?
yeah, right. So if you
Okay.
were an owner or president or in some
Okay.
way had personal.
I'm
gain.
just an employee YouTube. I don't know where the camera's at.
But
Hey.
thank you. That's right. But thank you for,
Yeah.
for transparency's sake. Absolutely.
Do you know how these schools were selected?
I don't. Other than they were working with the KSSN coordinators, so,
Yeah, I think it is just the schools that have a coordinator placed inside their building that have this.
And
I-
not all of our schools have KSSN
Yeah,
coordinators,
not
right?
all of
So
our
probably
schools
would be the schools
KSSN,
that do
and I-
have coordinators, would be my
yeah, I
guess.
think we have a few more schools that are KSSN.
Yeah, I think we have 12 total or something.
So that's why
Okay.
I'm thinking that knowing they want to make an impact and don't want to spread it too thin, so that's my guess is they narrowed the KSSN schools down to a few.
All right, may I please have a motion to move this donation forward?
Move.
Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, a motion carries. Last and final donation for today.
That's what I was going to say. We have one more donation from our super donor. I want to put it there.
Yes,
Sherry
indeed she is.
Lindoe. And this is another one. By the time we get things compiled, it is an after the fact one. But these are things that she has brought in, collected to be distributed out to homeless, the fine arts department, and our family and community engagement department. And planning to distribute those at upcoming back-to-school and orientation type items, so, events.
Motion to move this forward?
May I have support?
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, that concludes our action items. We'll move forward to our reports, and we'll welcome Mr. Smart forward for our bond construction
I was going
update.
to say, before he starts,
Yes.
I'm going to just throw in, as on the motion of idea of donations, Dr. Roby did let you know in her superintendent's letter about another upcoming one. The Ford Airport Authority is planning a golf outing.
That's right.
Don't have specifics on dollar amount, what that may look like. I don't think it's going to come with many restrictions, so we're trying to decide what the best use of that will be. So they're anticipating it will be around $5,000. So if we have that information, we'll bring it forward in August, what that donation looks like. Another one that's in the works is Planet Fitness is donating weight room equipment for Ottawa Hills.
Great.
Again, we're still trying to work through some of those details, but we'll bring forth donation memo when we've got more of those details, but just wanted to give you a heads up that that donation is out there as well. And then we've got another furniture type donation and still trying to work out those details of what that will look like is from Meyer Gardens.
I thought we got the one for Ottawa Hills. I thought
It's been talked about a lot, but we didn't actually have the formal donation memo.
Is that planned for this upcoming year?
The Ottawa Hills, the equipment.
The
yes.
equipment? Okay.
Within the next month.
As I was going to say, I think the plan is to have it ready for fall.
Okay.
So just wanted to give you those previews of upcoming donations.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
hello.
Distinguished board members, good to see you. I'll give you an update on what's going on with our bond project with Central High School. Lots of ups and downs and nerves and stress as school is the start of school is rapidly approaching. Rockford Construction is wrapping up, finishing phase number 5. On the project, and we are expected to be ready to receive our students or scholars, with the exception of 9 rooms. We have been working with the principal and executive director Matthew Beresford, and they have developed a plan to offset those not having access to those 9 rooms. So we're in good shape with that. And I know you're really inquisitive, Mr. Eatman, about why those 9 rooms are not completed. It's primarily we found some things on site, field conditions that are going to cost us a little bit of money and time to get them ready. So we've been working with building officials and or subs to try to find a remedy. So we have it. It's just going to delay getting those projects completed. We are also moving forward with Phase 6 that actually started on June 19th, and it is on track, still on tracking to be completed in January 2024, and that will be our last phase for that project. Moving forward to the wall, the famous wall. We did start demolition work. We had a little delay because we brought the crane on site and then it wouldn't work. So they had to call mechanics to come in and get the crane working. But it's working. And we are starting the demolition on that. It started actually July 17. And the new structural members are scheduled to start mid-August. And the delivery of the pre-manufactured panels is scheduled for September 5. So we hope to have the whole space closed in before winter arrives. We are planning on saving 500 bricks to make available for any alumni or anyone that wants to have some, I guess, something from the past of Central High School. Any questions on Central before I move on to the G.R. Montessori Fountain Building? Okay. G.R. Montessori Fountain Building, that's the one that has been giving us some challenges. We have some supply chain issues, serious, significant ones. We have to provide dampers, and those dampers are not scheduled for delivery until the end of next week. And that really is setting us back significant on the schedule of the project. Now, having said that, we're going to start school. We have developed a plan with, again, Rockford Construction and building officials. The building officials are helping us, that we will complete second and third floor will be just fine. The challenge is going to be the first floor. And the building officials have been working with us to outline fire separations to make sure that our students are safe. And Rockford will be coming in third shift, third shift, and weekends to complete the work. We expect that it will be done around mid-October, working nights and weekends. So that way we don't disrupt our students during the school year. We actually have a person driving down to Chattanooga next week to pick up the dampers that we need. The ones that, so by the 28th, we should be installing some dampers, but there are other different dampers that will be a week later. And we'll probably have to make similar arrangements to drive down there. It's a 10-hour drive. I volunteered to do it, but they didn't take me on my proposal. So it's going to be an nail biter, but we're not too worried that we're not going to pull it off. We've been here before, and students will be in the building. We actually do have our staff in hand that last weekend before school starts to be in the building to help each and every single teacher unpack and get the classrooms ready. So they're not going to be doing that by themselves. We'll be there with them to help them get ready.
Do you know if there'll be any communication going out to the students prior to the start of the school year and notify them about changes or potential
yes.
disruptions?
We're going to wait a few more weeks for us to actually have more facts and better understanding on the schedules, make sure all the moving parts are not going to keep moving, and then we'll issue communication. Any questions?
There's no stress in construction like the end of school season. Yeah.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that there are so many things that are totally out of our control.
Yeah.
We have been struggling getting bids, and we have some projects that we didn't get the bids. in time to bring them to you. So
Yep.
that may set us behind at least 5 more weeks, 5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It is the reality right now, but it is very unfortunate. Okay, well, thank you for the update.
Okay.
I have one
Yeah.
final thing before we close.
Absolutely.
Our auditors, I believe, sent emails to all board members today regarding
Yep.
our audit. It's an annual communication that they do to request information. So I got copied on it this year, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of a long letter they send all of you. But if you have questions, definitely reach out to them. I know they've already talked to Ms. Shatke as the board treasurer as well. So I just want to look for that in your email.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. With that, we will adjourn this committee meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.